The numbers are staggering. $85 million in potential lost earnings, a $5 million charity donation just to get back in the door, no equity grants for 5 years, no FedEx Cup bonus money, no automatic entries into signature events. Brooks Koepka paid the price to return to the PGA Tour, one of the largest financial repercussions in sports history. But his sacrifice raises a question no one wants to ask out loud. If the tour is forcing returning players to forfeit $85 million, does that mean they don't have $85 million to give? Koepka's words after the announcement sent a chill through the golf world. "It's meant to hurt," he said. But who exactly is it hurting, and what does it say about the tour's financial health? Subscribe for the full story of what Brooks Koepka's return reveals about the PGA Tour's money situation. When Brooks Koepka decided to leave LIV Golf and return to the PGA Tour, he knew it wouldn't be easy. He just didn't know how expensive it would be until the numbers landed. Under the tour's returning member program, a one-time pathway created specifically for players who won majors or the Players' Championship between 2022 and 2025, Koepka agreed to terms that would make most athletes heads spin. A $5 million charitable donation to be decided jointly with the tour, no access to FedEx Cup bonus money for the entire 2026 season, no eligibility for PGA Tour equity grants from 2026 through 2030, and worst of all, no sponsor exemptions into the $20 million signature events. He has to earn his way into everything. The tour's own estimates put the potential financial loss at anywhere from $50 million to $85 million, depending on how Koepka performs over the next 5 years and how the tour's equity value grows. It's one of the largest financial repercussions in professional sports history. "I understand exactly why the tour did that. It's meant to hurt," Koepka said in a brief telephone interview after the announcement, "but it hurt a lot of people." That last part is the one that lingers. It hurt a lot of people. Not just him, not just the players who left, the entire ecosystem. Koepka isn't wrong. When he and others defected to LIV in 2022, they took with them not just their talent, but their marketability, their drawing power, their ability to move the needle. The tour had to scramble. They had to create the signature event system, smaller fields, no cuts, $20 million purses just to keep the remaining stars from following. They had to secure a $3 billion investment from Strategic Sports Group, giving players equity ownership in the new PGA Tour enterprises. They had to fundamentally restructure their entire business model. And now, when one of those defectors wants to come back, the price tag reflects not just his departure, but the damage it caused. "It's meant to hurt," Koepka repeated. But the question nobody's asking out loud is whether the tour can afford to keep making that point. Let's talk about that $3 billion investment from Strategic Sports Group. When the deal was announced in early 2024, it was hailed as a game changer. Fenway Sports Group, Arthur Blank, Stephen Cohen, Tom Werner, John Henry, a who's who of American sports ownership, were putting $3 billion into PGA Tour Enterprises, a new for-profit subsidiary designed to compete with LIV's financial muscle. Players would get equity ownership, something unprecedented in professional golf. Tiger Woods himself called it exciting for me to be able to be part of that. But here's what the press releases didn't emphasize. That $3 billion wasn't a gift, it was an investment. SSG now owns a significant stake in the tour's commercial future. They expect a return. They expect growth. They expect the tour to become more valuable, not just hold steady. And that's where Koepka's $85 million question becomes relevant. If the tour had unlimited money, would they need to claw back $85 million from a returning player? Would they need to structure a program so punitive that it's essentially designed to hurt? Or would they simply welcome him back, absorb the PR hit, and move on? The answer is obvious. The tour isn't running a charity. They're running a business with investors who expect results. Every dollar they give to Koepka, in equity, in bonuses, in signature event purses, is a dollar they can't use elsewhere, and right now, they need every dollar they can get. The signature event system itself is evidence of the strain. $20 million purses at select tournaments, designed to keep the top players happy and prevent further defections. But those purses don't materialize out of thin air. They come from sponsors, from TV deals, from the very revenue streams that took a hit when players like Koepka left. The tour's CFO, Jay Madara, who helped architect the for-profit transition and the player equity program, just announced his retirement effective March 31st. The tour credited him with financial stewardship during a period of significant change. Translation: he helped keep the ship afloat through the storm. Now he's stepping away, and the tour is searching for someone to fill his shoes. Meanwhile, Farmers Insurance announced that 2026 will be the final year of their sponsorship at Torrey Pines, ending a 17-year run. They're not the only ones. The Sony Open, the Genesis Invitational, the Charles Schwab Challenge, and the Wyndham Championship all have title sponsorship contracts expiring this year. No new sponsors have been announced for any of them. That's not a crisis, yet, but it's a trend worth watching. Here's the part of this story that doesn't get enough attention. When the tour created signature events, $20 million purses, smaller fields, no cuts, they solved a problem at the top. The stars got their money, they got their guaranteed weekends, they got the financial incentive to stay loyal. But what about everybody else? This week's Cognizant Classic at PGA National tells the story. 0 players ranked inside the top 25 of the official world golf ranking, only 8 from the top 50. A tournament with history, with tradition, with the famous bear trap, and nobody's home. How did this happen? The schedule layout is the culprit. The Cognizant Classic is sandwiched between the Genesis Invitational, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and the Players' Championship, all $20 million signature events. Players at the top can be selective. They're going to play where the money is. And when a tournament offers half the purse of the events around it, with no cut and no guaranteed weekend, the math is simple. Don't get me wrong, it is possible to play your way in, wrote Josh Leese of Bunkered Magazine. Look at last week's winner, Jacob Bridgman. He has played his way through the ranks since graduating from the Corn Ferry Tour in 2023 and was rewarded with a signature win at Riviera. These breakthroughs are often few and far between, though, with those lower down the pecking order feeling the impact. The gap between the top and bottom of the tour is growing, and in its current state, with less cards on offer and pathways to the top being tightened, it's harder than ever for those not already at the table to break through. This is the unintended consequence of fighting a financial war with LIV. The tour poured resources into keeping the stars happy, and they succeeded. But the middle class is feeling the squeeze. And when middle-class tournaments start losing sponsors, when fields become weaker, when fans stop paying attention, the entire ecosystem suffers. There's another piece of this puzzle that doesn't show up on a balance sheet, but tells the same story. Walk the range at any PGA Tour event this season, and you'll notice something strange. Fewer new equipment deals, less movement, less money changing hands. It used to be a New Year's tradition for golf writers to wake up to an inbox flooded with announcements from equipment companies detailing their latest signings. This year, silence. The reasons are complicated. Equipment companies have shifted more dollars to social media and influencer marketing, but there's another factor that's hitting everyone: tariffs. The moves by President Trump that took effect last April have significantly raised costs for equipment manufacturers. Nearly all of them rely heavily on overseas manufacturing: metal woods from China or Thailand, shafts from Japan, grips from outside the United States. Even golf balls, which are often manufactured domestically, rely on rubbers and other materials that are imported. The consequence? Endorsement money has dried up. Companies that once signed players to lucrative long-term deals are now being more selective. For players outside the top tier, the equipment money that used to supplement their income is getting harder to find. This matters because it's another pressure point on the tour's ecosystem. Players at the top, the Schefflers, the McIlroys, the Spieths, they'll always have equipment deals, they'll always have sponsors. But the guys fighting to keep their cards, grinding through Cognizant classics with half-empty galleries, they're feeling the squeeze from every direction. And when those players can't make ends meet, when the tour's middle class starts to shrink, the entire pyramid gets shakier. So back to Brooks Koepka and his $85 million question. "It's meant to hurt," he said. "I understand exactly why the tour did that." But here's what Koepka also understands. The hurt isn't just about punishment. It's about math. The tour has investors now. They have equity grants to distribute, players to pay, signature events to fund, and sponsorship deals to renew. Every dollar they give Koepka is a dollar they can't use elsewhere. And with sponsorship contracts expiring, with equipment money drying up, with the middle class struggling to stay afloat, they can't afford to be generous. This is the reality of professional golf in 2026. The tour isn't running out of money, not yet. They have $3 billion from SSG, a for-profit structure, and a plan for the future. But they're also navigating a landscape that's more complicated, more expensive, and more fragile than anyone imagined 5 years ago. The signature event system is working for the stars. The equity program is working for the players who stayed loyal. The returning member program is working for the defectors willing to pay the price. But for everyone else, the guys at the bottom of the FedEx Cup, the tournaments stuck in the schedule, the sponsors weighing their options, the pressure is real. Koepka's return is a story about forgiveness, about second chances, about a player willing to sacrifice $85 million to come home. But it's also a story about a tour that can't afford to be sentimental, a tour that has to make hard choices because every dollar counts. "It hurt a lot of people," Koepka said. He's right, it did. And the healing is far from over. The question isn't whether the PGA Tour is running out of money. The question is whether they can keep all the plates spinning long enough to figure out what comes next. For more coverage of the PGA Tour's financial landscape and the biggest stories in golf, subscribe and hit the notification bell.